Welcome to another edition of the Postgame Wrap. I'm Jarret Johnson, and Texas Tech dropped yet another one on the road too. This time 31-15 to Iowa State in Ames, Iowa. And I got to tell you, for those who actually watched the game was never as close as the final score. And then the game never felt as close as the score really throughout. Iowa State dominated really from the get. Now, Tech did have had a respite. They actually scored the first touchdown of the game, but it was after Iowa State drove the length of the field, got within range for a chip shot, which Eli Howard made a great play to block it. Zach McPherson, who had a pretty good all-around game, actually, was one of the lone bright spots, picked it up from 90 yards, ran it all the way to the house. Tech had a 7-0 lead. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better start in terms of the score for the Red Raiders, but Iowa State would score the next 31 consecutive points. It was not a good day for the defense, but an even worse day for the offense as quarterback Alan Bowman, I know for me, Joe Yeager and his Yeager shots, you can read, and several others, that the fact that they started Alan Bowman over Henry Colombi was a bit of a surprise given the way Colombi operated the offense against Kansas State. I mean, I feel like for the first time, really, perhaps even of the Wells era period, the offense had a rhythm. You could see what he wanted to accomplish with some of the read option game. Colombi's ability to scramble out of trouble on third downs and move the chains was like an oasis in the desert. It seemed like a no-brainer, I think, for really everyone. This was not the classic case of the backup quarterback being the most popular guy on the team. It is obvious that Bowman has struggled. There's some things that he just will never be able to do. And then ultimately, his injury history, you just can't continue to invest reps in Bowman. I said this before the game. I'm saying it after it. I'll give you the stats. They're ugly. But to give you an idea of just how much Texas Tech struggled, Alan Bowman finished 13 for 22 for 97 yards. All right. At one point, Iowa State, going into the fourth quarter, they led 456 to 97 in terms of total yardage, and at one point they had a first down advantage of 29 to 4. For those of you who may not really understand or grasp that number, I mean, that is like out rebounding a team in basketball by 30. I mean, that is total domination of your space, of the field, of the gridiron. Iowa State thoroughly dominated Texas Tech on both sides of the ball today. I had Texas Tech losing this game. I think Iowa State's a good team. I actually picked them before the season to win the Big 12. I don't think they're some great team. I don't think they're ready to take on Bama in the Sugar Bowl or anything. I'm just saying I think Iowa State is a solid all-around team, and they're very good in spots where Tech isn't as much. To that point, running the ball today, Texas Tech finished with just 58 yards rushing. They were outrushed 214 to 58, and so a lot of that came after Colombi came in, and Colombi wasn't inserted in the game until there was like 8 minutes and change. It was 31-7. The game was, for all intents and purposes, over, but he did lead the Red Raiders on their only offensive touchdown. Later on in the game, he would be stopped on a turnover on downs, but you could clearly see the offense. Now, some will say, okay, Iowa State, they had a big lead. They had some backups in. They pulled back the reins. Perhaps they did have some backups in, but they had some starters at linebacker in as well. And we saw Colombi throw for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, run for some more, scramble for a couple first downs against Kansas State in real-time football when the game was in doubt. So, I asked Coach Wells after the game in the post-game presser, I said, look, what did you see and what did y'all see in Bowman to start him over Colombi? Because from my perspective, it is clear that Colombi is the better quarterback. This offense is way more effective and efficient under Colombi. He said, to his credit, that he thought that was a fair point after seeing today. Because Bowman, he struggled mightily. At one point, they finished, when Bowman was in there, they were 0 for 8 on third downs and 0 for 2 on fourth down. So, you're not going to win many football games. But Wells said that they're going to reevaluate the position in the next couple of days, him and the offensive coordinator, David Yost, and then they'll make a decision and they'll go from there. there was like 5 or 6 questions on the quarterback position because I mean, look, we may just be reporters. Maybe we're not making 6-figure, 7-figure salaries to coach a football team, but I mean, judging by Inside the Red Raiders, the board, which I'm not saying we're all geniuses on that board or on any message board, but I think it's obvious to anyone watching these games that Columbia is the guy, and not even just independent of that Columbia actually has what it takes to have some success on this offense, but Bowman clearly does not. That I think it's best. I said this in the mailbag, and I'll say this right here on this in this space on this recap that I think it would be best for Bowman, and I think it would be best for the program if he moves on after this because it doesn't seem like he's going to be effective in this offense, and even if he is, you got to worry about his injury history. So I think a fresh start for him, who has shown before he can be effective, but also in this offense, so they can move on from him. I think it'd be best for everybody if they go their separate ways. So we'll have to see how that goes. Certainly they have 2 weeks now. Texas Tech does. They have 2 weeks between now and when they host West Virginia to figure out that quarterback position. And if they trot out Alan Bowman again, I think we're all going to have some major concerns. That's just where we're at. It's nothing personal. This is big time football. It's Power 5 football. There's a lot of jobs on the line, not just Alan Bowman's starting spot. But Texas Tech, with this loss now, I mean, they're 1-3. They're 0-3 in the Big 12. They're stacking losses now under Coach Wells. He and his staff and those players need a W in the worst kind of way. And I want to say, I didn't see any quit. I feel like the defense who struggled. I mean, they gave up, I think, 570 yards. Let me get the exact number for you here. About 516 yards, which still, that's a lot. They gave up 516 yards. There were times that it looked like Iowa State could do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. Brock Purdy threw for over 300. Their running back, Breece Hall, who was terrific. He ran for 130 and 2 touchdowns. Let me get his exact stats for you. 135 and 2 touchdowns. He ran for 5 yards, which is 5 yards a carry, which is actually 1 yard short, less than his season average. So, but still, I mean, the defense struggled mightily. You feel like if Iowa State didn't have quite the methodical approach, they could have put up more points. I mean, I feel like that's a true statement. Like I said, I knew this was going to be a tough matchup. I knew it before. I said it before the season. I said it after they lost to Kansas State, and I've said it throughout the week that this was going to be tough. Matt Campbell's now 5-0 against the Red Raiders, and his average margin of victory going in this game was 17. He won by 16 points. So he's been pretty consistent with the way he's handled the Red Raiders since he's been at Ames. So I feel like though there were some plays on defense where like right at the beginning of the second half they get a 3-and-out against Iowa State, get the ball back. Tech does very little with it. Certainly didn't score. And then on the next possession they get a turnover and they give the ball to Texas Tech. I think either the 40 or the 39 of Iowa State. They have to punt. You go 3-and-out, you have to punt. So I mean the defense did some things despite struggling to at least allow Texas Tech to be competitive. The offense under Alan Bowman and offensive coordinator David Yost was uncompetitive. So they got to go back to the drawing board. Hopefully Columbia's the guy, and then they can figure out some things from there. Keyshawn Carter not playing, that hurt, but that wasn't the sole reason. So Roderick Thompson struggled again. That's 2 weeks in a row. He's kind of struggled. They need to get him back on track. Xavier White has looked okay, but nobody in the running game really looked good. Coach Wells said, after the game, it was obvious how disappointed he was in their lack. He said he thought they had some things schemed up, and it just didn't work. They got handled in the running game, and it hurt a lot. So I don't want to put it all on Alan Bowman because I think if Columbia played, I still think Iowa State would have won. Like I said, I think this is just a really tough matchup for Texas Tech, but I think it would have been more competitive. So, I think I asked Coach Wells, what do you have to hang your hat on? You got 2 weeks now to think about this loss. It's been a really tough start to the season. I mean, what's the positivity? What are you hanging your hat on, going into this 2 week stretch here? And he said, being competitive against Texas, being competitive against Kansas State is good, but they still were losses. He said they're just going to have to continue to keep working at it. And it's my hope that they'll make the right decision. They'll go with Columbia. I'm not saying he's going to be perfect. He's going to have some growing pains. But his running ability, I think he has a better arm. I think he has a more of an aggressive nature, willingness. And he's more accurate on deep passes, to be honest. So I feel like you have more of a chance, and this is going to be a more exciting, a more fun brand of Red Raider football over the last 6 games of this season. And I think there's some very winnable games. People are going to think I'm crazy, but I still think Tech's going to win half of their games. You have Kansas, which, hey, they could lose that game. They lost to them last year, but I do believe they'll win that game. I think West Virginia is very winnable coming up in a couple of weeks. But again, they could lose that game. I think, Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma, I don't know. It's 2020. Maybe you get a win out of there. You normally play good in Fort Worth, so you just have to see. I still think this season is salvageable in terms of being a bridge for next season, but the margin for error is slim to none, and you cannot play Bowman instead of Columbia. That's just my opinion. We'll see. These coaches have been around. They've had success at different places. They're making a lot of money to make these decisions, so we'll see what decisions they make. But to me, it's pretty clear. So I think that's the optimism moving forward in my humble opinion. So with that, I want to say thank you for watching, and until next time.